Blue Ox Productions presents 2014 Ural rear brake modification number 2. Well, if you follow my post, you know that shortly after I got my bike, I did a modification to the rear brake. I got rid of all the parking brake assembly, and I put this bolt in to hold the cam back, and that was the first modification I did, but that kind of opened the way to the second modification. And for those of you that have a EFI Ural, you know that your rear reservoir sits over here and the master cylinder is clear on the other side underneath the frame. I never really liked that setup, so what I did was I bought another reservoir, a machined aluminum one, and I relocated it to the other side of the bike. But here's a couple of the reasons. One, I never liked this. That screw is loose, so that it didn't normally dangle like that. But I never liked that location right below the electrical plug, underneath the panel, right next to the battery. I didn't like it. But another thing that was happening, and I kept an eye on it, but it could eventually have caused some problems, was the way the brake line routes. It's a formed brake line. It goes down and it goes underneath the battery, and then it wraps around the front of the swing arm to the master cylinder. Well, you can see that shiny spot right there on the fender. That's right where the brake line was rubbing. It was also rubbing on the battery tray, and I did put some like loom around it and stuff to protect it, but I just didn't like that. I did not like that at all. So really the only money I spent on this was I bought a machined aluminum reservoir. It came in from China. Of course it took 3-4 weeks, but that's no big deal, and I think it was like $2. I used the exact same brake line, and if you're careful with the way you do it, you can do this with no bleeding required. But I did have to cut the brake line and put it. So I'm going to move to the other side of the bike and show you where the new reservoir. Okay, so those of you with EFI bikes, you'll recognize this mount. That's where your handle for your parking brake mounts, 2014 through 2016 models. But I took that off as part of my first brake mod. And so here's the reservoir right here. It came with this nice little mounting clip. This is the same hose that was used before, and all I had to do was cut it, and it fit up there real nicely. It still wraps around the swing arm and goes down to the master cylinder underneath the swing arm down there. It sits in right behind this plate right here. So it's the same hose, but again, if you're careful and you pinch that hose off when you do this, no bleeding required. Total cost I think was like $2 to get this done, and this being aluminum, it is I'm not too worried about it getting hit in that location. It's protected pretty good by the down tube going down to the sidecar, and to me a lot better installation, less wear on the hose. It's all vertical from here down to the master cylinder, so I just like the installation a lot better.